Hi everybody, Vivek Patel here from Meaningful Ideas. You all know that when I talk about parenting, I talk about don't use limits, don't use boundaries, don't use consequences with your kid. And every time I talk about consequences, people always say, oh, but Vivek, consequences are just what happens. It's just like the result of what happens. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But still, natural consequences can be used just as coercively as imposed consequences. Like a natural consequence doesn't really exist. We always hear people saying, oh, natural consequences, natural consequences. But the thing is, the moment a parent finds out something's happened, it's no longer a natural consequence. Because even the choice to step back and let it happen on its own is still a choice. You're still imposing something. You're imposing that the kid deal with it on their own, even though you could step in and help. So the moment the parent knows, the only truly natural consequences that happen to kids are the ones where, by the way, I'm making avocado toast, mixing with cream cheese and sesame oil, Tabasco, tahini, and coriander chili chutney. It's going to be really good. The only natural consequences that happen are the ones where the parent doesn't even know anything's happened. So the kid's playing on their own, and the blocks fall over because they bumped them, and the parent is in the other room, and then the kid has to deal with the fact that the blocks fell over, and whatever happens, happens however they deal with it. And the parent never knows about it. But if the parent's in the room and the blocks fall over, then automatically what happens is they have to make a choice on how to deal with it. And if their choice is to step back and let the kid deal with it and have their emotional experience and figure out how to do the blocks, that's an imposed consequence. I'm not saying it's wrong. Sometimes it makes sense to step back and let the kid deal with it. Sometimes it makes sense a lot of times it makes sense to jump in and help them. Sometimes they need empathy for their feelings. Sometimes they need space. I'm not saying what the way to handle it is. But in every situation, if the parent knows about it, it's an imposed consequence. I just want to make that clear. Because, again, every single time I post about consequences, people bring up natural consequences, as if it's this magical thing that teaches kids, and it really isn't. I mean, it is. It happens every moment of every day. It's always happening. But when parents say natural consequences, they're not actually talking about natural consequences because they're aware of the existence of it. The common example is always the kid goes out into the cold without a coat, and then they learn that it's cold and they should have worn a coat. And I always say, well, what about if we tell them next time, try it again without the coat? Maybe last time it was more cold, or maybe last time you weren't feeling so good, and that's why you wanted a coat after all. Or maybe last time you were just going for a walk, so you didn't need a coat, but this time you're going to be throwing snowballs. Oh no, last time you were going for a walk, so you did need a coat. This time you're throwing snowballs, so a coat's just going to get in the way. And then you can throw snowballs and then put the coat on after the snowballs. Life is not so straightforward that you go out without a coat and then you learn that you need a coat. That's more like I told you so. And if you're thinking that way, even if you don't do anything about it, if you're thinking that way, I love tahini so much. If you're thinking that way, you're still relating to the idea of natural consequences as imposed consequences to try and get your kid to think something different, do something different, act something different. Some kind of behavior modification is taking place. Behavior or thinking modification is taking place. And me, I try and avoid that at all costs because number one, I want to relate to my kid with the deepest and most profound respect possible. And using consequences to alter their behavior, to modify their behavior is not the deepest. It's not the deepest. If I knew that my partner or my best friends were secretly using things that happened in my life to try and get me to think a certain thing, without exploding. I mean, it's different if they talk to me about it and they process it and say, hey, Vivek, have you considered that when this happened, it might mean this, and maybe you can look at that, and maybe you can learn from it this way. That's more like what I want. I want us to engage in rational discussion with our kids and exploration of life. I'm just getting the toast. And exploration of life and learning together. That's different. That's lovely. I want that. But it's different than natural consequences. So then someone else on one of my posts said, well, Vivek, what about if the kid writes on the wall? I might redirect them to write on something else, but I'm still going to get them to clean up the wall with me. And someone else said, well, no, it's not. It's still a consequence if you get them to do that. They said, what if we make it fun? I say, even if you make it fun, it's still a problem, because you're still imposing. But why? So here's the thing. I'm going to explain the philosophy why we don't do that. Even if it seems like it would be a good thing, why we don't do that. So, in non-coercive collaborative parenting, we focus on what's happening behind the scenes, underneath the behavior, more than we focus on the behavior. So the behavior is drawing on the wall, but how I respond to it has a profound effect on the kid's relationship with themselves. Now I'm putting the cream cheese on the toast, my gluten-free toast. And yeah, so how we respond to it has a profound effect on the kid's relationship with themselves. How they see themselves, how they respond to mistakes, how they respond to their own urges, because when the kid draws, they're exploring, they're excited. And if we're like making them clean up because they did something wrong, then what does that say about their excited artistic urge, right? It doesn't bode well for it. It makes it a problem. It's a problem. Well, it's only a problem if you write on the walls. Yeah, but a kid doesn't know that. So that's the one thing, is we really want to pay attention to how is this affecting our kids' relationship with themselves. It's such an important thing to pay attention to, and when we're paying attention to that, really paying attention to that, it changes so much of our parenting. You literally can't, once you start really focusing in on that and getting the feeling of nurturing their relationship with themselves, you can't use consequences, because you know that's an outside-in approach. Consequences are an outside-in approach. You do the consequence, they have an experience because of it, and you hope that they're going to learn. So, like, if they clean up the wall, you hope they're going to learn that they have to clean up the wall if they draw on it, right? Or you hope they learn they have to contribute to the family, and we all take care of the thing together. But that's not what they're learning. If you want a kid to learn to clean up because they care about the family unit and the environment, then you have to do things that help them learn to care about you and their impact on you and the family environment. Forcing a kid to clean up against their will, even if you make it fun. Because sometimes you can force them and then make it fun, and sure, they're laughing, but they're laughing on the basis of a forced behavior, a forced consequence. And even if you make it fun, underneath that is still a forced consequence. And that's a problem, because it's a contradiction. Part of my parent is fun in this moment. Part of my parent is forcing me to do something and calling me wrong for what I did. But kids have such a need for connection with us that they're gonna, if you make it fun, they'll still have fun with you. And a lot of parents get fooled into thinking it's okay because of that, but it's still not okay. Well, I don't think it's okay. And in non-coercive collaborative parenting, what we do here, it's not okay. Because what we really want to do is focus on the deep relationship. So there's three main relationships that we focus on when we're trying to empower kids and help them learn values and help them learn about their impact and learn to care about their impact, so that we can have a functioning, holistic, harmonious home environment, and so that they take those skills out into the world too. And so the first one is the relationship with self, like I mentioned. I'm always thinking, always, how is this affecting my kids' relationship with themselves? When you force someone to do something and you project wrongness, that's not inspiring a deep relationship with themselves. It's not helping them learn about their own values. It's not helping them tune into their own ethical sense. None of that stuff. The second relationship is relationship with parent. Relationship with parent is so important, so fundamental, because we're like their primary guide, primary source of learning, of sustenance, of emotional connection, all that stuff, especially for the first few years. We're their primary source of that. And even when we're no longer the primary source, like my kid's married, so I'm not her primary source. Her wife is like, the two of them are so close, and they're just so amazing together. But I'm still a deep source of it. If I'm not her primary source anymore, I'm still her a deep source of emotional connection, of human connection. So the parent-child relationship is so important. This is why I refuse. Let's go into the living room for a bit. I got to sit down. This is why I refuse to use coercion on my kid, because it damages that relationship every single time. Every single time, because no one can really trust someone who forces their their will on them, using power. It's against the nature of human safety, of feeling safe with each other, of feeling connected with each other. So this is the problem with loving limits too. Loving limits are where you set a limit or a boundary. A limit like you can't have the cookie, boundary like you have to clean up the thing, whatever it is. Gotta go to sleep. But then you empathize with their feelings after in a really kind way. It's hard not to get what you want. It's hard when this happens. I understand. I understand your feelings. Your feelings are natural. But you're the one who made the feeling happen in the first place, and you could have just not done it. There's a difference between what I call avoidable pain and unavoidable pain. The avoidable pain, you could have just not done it. You could have given them the cookie. You could have let them stay up longer. You could have not taken the tablet out of their hands. You could have celebrated the drawing on the wall rather than criticized it and not made them clean up. You could have done all these things to avoid the pain. Unavoidable pain, the blocks fall over. You can't reverse that and help. Unavoidable pain, they get picked on at school or a teacher yells at them. Unavoidable pain, like you have to get to work, otherwise you're going to get fired and lose your job, and you won't have a place to live, and you need the money to eat, and you live in a capitalistic supremacist world, and so you have to deal with that, and you got to get out the house. There's unavoidable pain. Even in the unavoidable pain, there's coercive, harsher ways to deal with it, and kinder, softer, more collaborative ways to deal with it. So even there, we have some different choices about it. But in any case, when it's the avoidable pain, and we choose to do the avoidable pain anyways, and then we empathize on top of it, that's kind of icky, right? I mean, if somebody did that to me, like let's say a friend came over and said, "I think you've had enough time on your cell phone," and grabbed that out of my hand and locked it in their car, and then put the key somewhere where I couldn't get it, and I'm like, "That's my phone. Give me my phone." "No, I'm doing this for your own good." "Give me my phone." It's hard not to get what you want. I understand. Like, I don't know what's going to happen at that moment, right? Something not good is going to happen. At the very least, the friendship is in serious peril. Are they playing a prank? Maybe, but other than that, the friendship is in serious peril. Don't do that, right? But what? But we do that to our kids without giving it a second thought. Because it's for their own good. Because their brain development. Because they don't have the skills yet. Whatever we say, we're excusing this kind of behavior when there is another way. The other way might be harder, might take more work, but it's worth it not to treat another human being that way, especially the one that's so close to you and so dependent on you. So the third relationship, the first relationship is relationship with self. Second relationship is relationship with parent. Third relationship is relationship with environment, which includes other people, their peers, other adults, and other systems, like the school system, the education system, and the playground system, and as they get older, the economic system, and corporate, and legal, and all the different things. And having to work together in teams and groups when they get a job, whatever it is. There's all sorts of different things that they have to interface with other people and other systems, and we want to help them be as empowered as possible to manage those systems. And people always say you have to give them consequences because their boss is going to give them consequences, and that's not how the real world works. But these folks aren't really thinking about it. Like if you enter into a system, like a work system, for example, a work environment, where there are rules and there are expectations and there are consequences, you don't just I don't want my kid to automatically follow all the rules without thinking about it, without paying attention to what makes sense. I don't want them to be a drone, a robot that just follows along. I want them to be living, critical thinking, deep feeling, deep communicating individuals who are able to engage in collaborative teamwork with their teams, who listens to their boss when it makes sense, but also knows when to speak up, knows when to offer ideas and suggestions, knows when to say this might be inefficient. If the boss says do it anyways, okay, maybe sometimes that makes sense. What if the boss is asking you to do something that's against your values? Then what? I want my kid to be able to speak up and to make decisions on that. I want my kid to be a critical thinker. When you say kids have to learn, give them consequences because they have to learn consequences in the real world and they have to follow, you're not raising a critical thinker. And you just go online anywhere and you see all these people talking about things that they haven't done real research on, forming their opinions based on memes or what politicians tell them or what influencers tell them or what their parents told them, but not really doing deep thinking and deep feeling to come to their own conclusions. I mean, online is a great place to learn about that and to learn what not to do, right? And what to do instead. Me, I am very careful with my opinions. I'm very careful with my thinking because I don't want to end up thinking other people's thoughts and having other people's values. I want it to be chose. I always say we want it to be chose, not imposed. And so for my kid too, I want her thoughts and her opinions and her values and her understanding of life to be chose, not imposed. And that requires a great amount of discipline for us, internal discipline for us not to impose. And that's one of the reasons why I would never make my kid clean up. But it doesn't mean I don't inspire them to love the home that they're in and to feel a sense of connection and care for the home they're in. Responsibility, I wouldn't say teach them responsibility, because responsibility comes from care. That's why I say love is the core of chores. Love is the core of chores. You can't impose love. You can't enforce love. You can't insist on love. It doesn't work. It's not how we're built. It's not how we're wired. And love is the fundamental principle of this whole philosophy. And you can't insist on love. You can't punish love. Right? You can punish love. You can't punish someone into loving. It doesn't work that way. Right? But we can inspire it. We can nurture it. We can foster it. We can create an environment where it blossoms and grows. We can model it and help the kid feel what it feels like so that they want to reflect that back in their relationships. And this is what we're all about. So it's a very different way of approaching parenting. Someone else was saying, oh, but I have to make sure my kid gets sleep. I said, yes. But if you use force, then you're actually creating a situation where they won't trust your guidance. They're not going to be able to listen to their body. They're not learning about sleep from their own perspective. There are plenty of non-forceful ways that we can help our kids learn about sleep and get a good night's sleep. And maybe it's messier. Maybe they won't get enough sleep for the first little while. But we can develop patterns. Like my kid never had an enforced bedtime, but she went to bed pretty much at the same time every night because we had a beautiful routine that aligned with her sensory things, aligned with her needs, aligned with her energy. But we spent a lot of time figuring that out together before we found a stable practice. Sometimes she would stay up all night because she was really interested in something, really doing something that she didn't want to stop doing. Was she tired the next day? Yeah. So we would discuss it. But sometimes it's absolutely worth staying up late and having a crappy day the next day because you enjoyed yourself the night before. Sometimes and often it's worth not doing that. When we demonize one and say the other is the only good way, then we don't give them a chance to have real discernment around these things. And discernment is so important because none of these issues are cut and dry. They're all complex. They're all nuanced. They're all contextual based. And so this is a very different way than focusing on behavior, right? It's something much deeper. It's something that goes under the surface. That's why I call it iceberg consciousness. I am not satisfied with surface level approaches. I'm not satisfied with it. That's not what we do here. Yes, other people do it, and that's fine. Everyone has to do what they feel is right, but that's not what we do here. Here it's something very deep thinking, deep feeling, working from values, working from relationship, always going under the surface. So when you're working with your kids, ask yourself, how is this nurturing their relationship with themselves? How is this nurturing their relationship with me? And how is this empowering their relationship with their environment, other people, and the systems that they engage with and the community in? Right? And when you ask those three questions, I tell you now, everything's going to change. You can't just go on with your old patterns. You can't go on with the traditional way, the mainstream way, and the generational way that parenting has been done. We have to change things up. And some change is happening, right? Like gentle parenting is a great change. Gentle parenting, you don't yell, and you don't scream, and you don't punish, and mostly you don't give consequences. But you still have firm boundaries and limits. You're still the boss, and you still tell the kid what to do. And it's just still a little bit different. So you've got 1 foot in the old mindset, 1 foot in the new mindset. It's a transition, right? We're transitioning from authoritarian to authoritative. That's great. But there's further for us to go. That's just one step away. But there's further for us to go. And you can see the world right now. I'm just going to put in my plug for world peace here. You can see the world right now. So much oppression, so much hatred, so much indoctrination and propaganda controlling the minds of masses. I studied hypnosis for years in the 90s because I really wanted to understand the subconscious and how programming works and how suggestions work and how to... So many of the thoughts we think are ours aren't really ours. I want us to be really aware of that, and I want my kids to be really aware of that. And so, but you can see the impact of this kind of parenting, even though it's not the only thing, it's a significant thing, that it sends people out into the world that don't have that kind of awareness and aren't operating from deep human values of connection and kindness, inclusion and accommodation, and collaboration. They aren't thinking that way. It's more supremacy, it's more domination, it's more violent, it's more hierarchical. This is the result that we get, right? It's not what I want. I can't change it myself. I can't change the whole world. I know that. But I can plant a seed. And what I did with my kid was planting that seed of harmony and collaboration and kindness in our relationship, in all of my modeling and all the systems that we created together. And I can also plant a seed to however few people are listening to me. I can plant the seed to think about things this way, so that when you work with your kids, you can send out that same mindset. And the ripples go out from there, right? And I just had a parent yesterday write this beautiful testimonial for me, talking about how 4 years ago when they found my stuff, it changed their whole family. And now they are helping other parents shift their mindset with their kids, and the ripples are going out. Yay for ripples, right? I always say parents are ripple makers. That's what we are. And I tell the kids, you're ripple makers. You have so much power with every choice you make. This is one of the ways that I help kids learn about their power. I don't say everything you do has an impact, you better watch it. No, I'm excited about it, about their power. You have so much power to affect the world and affect the people around you, young people. I tell them, you're ripple makers. Everything you do creates a ripple, and the ripples go outwards. You have so much power. How do you want to use that power? What's meaningful to you in a way that you can use that power? And they get so excited about it, So like I said, there's so many ways we can inspire kids. And I was only going to make a 5-minute video. This is already 22 minutes. I'm going to go eat my toast now. Anyway, you kind of get the idea. I've been rambling on and on. You kind of get the idea. I love you all. Please follow me on Meaningful Ideas on all the spaces. Facebook, I have so many articles. You can go into the search function and type in any term, and you'll find a whole bunch of articles on that. YouTube, I have over 200 videos and adding more all the time. And I've recently started a parenting support group where I go live like this, kind of like this, where I go live every week talking about a different topic. This week we're talking about test, treat, and tornado, which is when you're transitioning from more coercive to a more collaborative way of working with your kids. There's a transition state where the kids are going to act out, where they're going to test you to see if it's real, where there's all these emotions that have been repressed all this time are going to come out, and you have to learn how to deal with that stuff so you can really make the transition together. And we're going to talk about that transition. But every week I talk about empathy, I talk about the nervous system and how it works, talk about the mind and how it works, talk about working with boundaries and limits in a non-coercive way where the kids get on board with all sorts of things. So if you want to join the membership group where I go live every week, you can go to meaningfulideas.com and click membership at the top, and it'll take you there. And that's it, everybody. I love you lots. I care about your families, and peace out.